Hello, everybody. Good evening. We are so glad to be here together to share information about thriving at the start of home hemodialysis. I am really excited about this topic because it's our chance to address something that is a challenge for a lot of folks, and that is getting through this sort of three hurdles. The first one being choosing home hemo in the first place, and the second one being training for it, and the third one being those first 3 months or so at home, getting started. So our sponsor for this webinar is Outset Medical. I'm Dory Chattel, the Executive Director of the Nonprofit Medical Education Institute. Jen Ravert is our Program Director. Jen and I are going to be your co-hosts tonight, and our special guests are Ann Edwards, David Rush, and Neil Lentz, and I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, and I'm going to call on them so that they get to know who's going to talk when. So I'm going to start with Ann. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do, Ann.
Sure. Ann Edwards. Thank you so much, Dory, and everyone for having me here. I've been with Outset Medical for over 3 years now. I have a background in advanced practice nursing, but at Outset, I help lead the Tableau patient experience team, where we partner with home patients, care partners, and the home hemo nurses, and support systems to help patients in their initial and long-term success at home on Tableau. So this topic is very fitting, as it's central to what we do daily at Outset, and I'm grateful to be part of today's discussion.
And we are so glad you are here. David, you have been here before. Tell us a little about you.
Hello, my name is David Rush. I am a patient on the Tableau machine. I'm also a patient advocate for kidney health. I am former transplant recipient, 2010 to 2018, and returning on to dialysis 2018, and then transferring to Tableau in October of 2021. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for everybody that joined up, and hope to have a great conversation today.
You've basically done everything except PD.
And basically everything except PD, transplanted, in-center, and home
right?
hemodialysis.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And Neil, how about you? Just sort of top line, quick intro. Tell us a little about you.
Yes, my name is Neil Lentz. I'm also a dialysis patient using Tableau. I started out with Fresenius on Next Stage and then transferred over to Tableau. And I'm happy to be here. And if anybody has any questions, be happy to answer them for you and give you any insight that we can.
Thank you for mentioning questions. We will take those in either the chat or the Q&A at the bottom of the page. We will do either because every once in a while we find that one of them doesn't work and the other one does. So don't give up on questions. We really would love to have your questions. And first, we're going to let folks tell their stories. And what I thought was interesting that I heard in the intro, and of course, I already knew this because we did a practice session earlier today, but we have folks who've been through that cycle of choosing home, training for home, starting at home twice. So we've got two people with 4 times the experience. And so this is, it's really exciting for us to be able to kind of hear your stories. So why don't we, David, why don't we have you start out? You got to home hemo in the first place because you were motivated, you had a good reason, and you can maybe share that. And then what was it like to go through training?
Of course, starting off in dialysis, as many patients end up crashing into dialysis, not knowing anything about what's going on, what we were diagnosed with, why we're here. We just know that now our life has dramatically changed, and your days are now spent on a machine, getting your blood clean for numerous hours. Me starting off at 5 hours in center because of my size and having to, and the extreme amount of how sick I was. So I was doing 5 hours a day in the hospital first, then transferred to in-center. I'm a musician by trade, doing music, writing music, performing music. And my career took me to meeting some big influential people at the time. And I was signed to Pitbull for 9 years. So when I was signed to him was right when I was starting dialysis. And so fast forward maybe a year into being signed to him and successfully doing music with him, he wanted me to go on tour with him to promote his new album and promote my new single, of course. And of course, I wanted to go. So I was motivated to try and find a way to do treatment on the road. I already signed up without even knowing how I was going to do that. And, I basically looked on Google and began learning about dialysis, mobile dialysis, I called it at the time. Back then, the only thing that was out was the next stage machine. So I learned the next stage machine. I trained for about 6 weeks to learn it. It was all brand new. I was kind of one of the first 1,000 patients, I want to say. Maybe I think I'm right. And learned the machine and was just motivated to get it.
How long did that take you to learn, and how confident did you feel as you were going through that training?
It was about a 6-week training. Of course, like I said, it was a little bit nerve-wracking just, thinking about you doing this at home and me thinking about taking it on the road and doing it by myself, or, as far as like with me actually doing it, having a care partner, of course. But at that time, just even doing anything at home by yourself without nurses, of course, was scary. Learning about cannulation was scary at first, but once you get over that hump, it's pretty much free and clear, and the independence part starts to jump in, and being able to live your life around your dialysis instead of forwarding your whole life to dialysis was something that really helped me to do that. And fast forward to getting transplanted, 2010.
Let's go back to you finished training, you
Yep.
want to tour.
Yep.
How long were you home before you took that machine on the road with you?
I want to say 3 months.
All right, so you had a little bit of
I-
actually you had those first 3 really challenging months to get used to it,
those
and then
first
you made
90
it even
days.
more challenging.
Yes, and all the accidents, all the alarms, everything possible happened in that 90 days that kind of prepared me. I actually started off without a pure flow. I think I was just doing bags at first because I just didn't have the room for everything to fit in my home. And then I should have second thought that because, I had a few boxes and stuff I had to fit, and I was using bags for a while, and then it kind of prepared me for tour, doing that and being able to just get adjusted to how to do treatment.
How did you tour? Was that buses, planes? How did that work?
Man, so we scheduled with many different facilities all over the world, pickups and drop-offs and everything like that, and equipment changes. I really got to thank the team that helped me with that when that time was going on. And we flew over to California and we started there. We rented a 15-passenger van. It was me and 5 other of my colleagues that worked with me on the road, DJ and road managers and all that stuff. And we just packed that truck up with us and all the equipment. And it was an adventure for 42 nights. So we'll take that for another Zoom.
So you were able to do all of the steps because you mentioned a care partner, and I know your wife has helped you out at home, but when you were on the road, she wasn't there.
No, I
'Cause you
luckily
got
had
kids.
my brother, who was who ended up giving me my kidney after we got off the tour. One of my best friends, D-Roy, Manolo, my boy John Barnes, and my DJ El Nino was on the road with me. So they all learned the machine on the road and would help me
Nice.
set up the city. So I would come in from a show, we would all come in together, collectively bring everything upstairs to the hotel, and they would just start to break everything down and set it up for me while I got my side of stuff ready. So by the time I was ready, the machine was set up and I would prime it and then treat, and then we'll head to the next city the next morning. So it was rough.
If you could send those 5 guys out to people's homes, that would be pretty great.
Yeah, they're ready, man.
They have a nice business going.
Yeah, we were doing it. It was the first time doing anything like that, and they just stepped up to the plate. So I couldn't have done the tour without them. So it was amazing to have their support.
I bet you guys got really close.
Yeah, we were close
All
before
that.
that. Some of these are high school friends, and
Yeah.
but it just, of course, my brother, and but just that experience, we still talk about it to this day. And when they,
I would think.
when they talk about, anything, they can kind of refer back to that moment and even help people. And I get phone calls from people who say that they told me to call you because they were with you and seen you do it. So it's prolonged and lived a full life as far as that whole experience.
It's pretty amazing that you were home for 3 months and then went off for 6 weeks on a tour.
Yeah, it went off for 42 nights. So
Yeah. All
David,
right,
it
so
was
that was,
crazy.
David, I'm curious about those first 3 months though, like
Me too.
what in those first 3 months worked for you, and what, what were those what was the challenge that you overcame, or what I think what you're talking about is like, you moved into freedom with your schedule, but perhaps did you hold consistent initially to
Right.
gain comfort and then kind of move yourself into the next level?
Well, you definitely have to develop a routine. Being in center, they kind of give you a time, and that's your time. And yes, you have the freedom of doing dialysis at home whenever you want, but it's best to be as organized as possible because there's so many moving parts. Give yourself the time related that you need to do your treatments. It was a 5-hour, like I said, in center. When I got home, I was 3 hours, and I was 4 hours at home, or 3 hours and 50 minutes, or something like that. But I gave myself a good 4 or 5 hour block in the day to get my treatment done in case anything
and
happened,
you
any
did more,
alarms,
you did more
anything like
days at
that.
home, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I think I was doing 6 days at home.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it could get overwhelming as well, you know what I mean? And you just have to give yourself that time and make sure you do it at a time where you have the most time to do what you need to do. I would just try and get it done early in the morning, so I have the rest of my day, and get into a routine, be as clean as possible and as organized as possible. And once you get your routine down, man, you'll start to fly.
Did you have any points during training where you thought, this is too much, I will never get this, I'll never learn this?
I would say first day of cannulating, just getting over the fear of cannulation, putting my own needles in. I never thought for a minute that I wouldn't be able to do it because I'm super duper competitive. So if you give me a challenge, I'm like, nah, I gotta get it now. And so I didn't think of it as not being able to do it. I just thought of it of, okay, how am I going to implement this into my life? You know what I mean? Like, how can I still live? Those were it's more of a mental battle for me of how do I prolong and how do I continue to live my life as best as possible while doing this, new way of life. You know what I mean? I didn't have kids at the time, and I was living on my own. So it was just like a matter of switching my life way around mentally and just figuring, hey, if you're going to do this, give 100%. And, I just had to mentally prepare for it more than anything.
All right. Let's move over to Neil for a bit. And Neil, tell us what it was like for you. How did you end up choosing? What was your motivation really for going home on hemo? And what was that training process like?
Well, I had heard about it, kind of through the grapevine. It wasn't really widely advertised in the center I was in. And I finally heard about it, and we looked into it a little bit. Finally decided to go for it. Kind of a little apprehensive going in because it's a whole new thing. It's like walking into that dialysis center the first time. I mean, it's like, what am I doing here? And what's next? You don't know what to expect. But you just, repetition is key. I was with Fresenius at the time, a whole different company. And when I heard about Tableau, I was in the hospital, and the tech in the dialysis center told me about it. So it was a good thing. But back to the training, it was about the same with David, the cannulation and the things. I do have to say I cannulated myself on the second day with one needle. The nurse did the first one, I did the second, and from then on, I've pretty much done myself.
Would you let anybody else touch your needles now?
If I can help it, no.
Right?
If I am physically able, because I control everything.
Right.
So it's a lot better.
My friend Henning says he would just as soon let somebody else brush his teeth as touch his needles.
Definitely.
That way,
Makes
but
sense.
I about
Yeah.
feel the same way.
Right.
What a way to feel. Oops, sorry, Neil.
No, that's my access. I don't like people messing with it.
Yeah. And once you get that freedom of being able to do it yourself and you get that independence, you kind kind of start to soar. And I've been in center and home and starting on Tableau in October of 2021. You know, I wouldn't even let nobody touch my access after I started to learn. Even when I go in center, if I go trip somewhere, they set up in front of me ready to go, and I'm like, oh no, I'm good, I got it. And you instantly become their favorite patient because they don't have to do too much with you. So they're happy to be your nurse at the time. But you know, patients, I mean, a lot of techs encourage that though. When I am in center and I want to do my own needles, they try to tap other people, say, look at him, look what he's doing. You know, you can
I was gonna ask you if you
Yeah.
thought that there were people who watched you do that in
Oh
center
yeah.
and said, what? You can
Yeah,
do that
I would hear it.
yourself?
They would physically say it to
Okay.
me, like, wait a minute, you're doing it your own? Like, you're gonna do
Yeah.
it by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, watch. You know, I kind of put on a show. So it's like, you know, I try to help them gain that independence too as well, to just know that they can do it as well if they really wanted to.
Awesome. I'm going to go back to Neil. And Neil, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked David, which is, was there any point during that training that you felt like this is too much, this is overwhelming, I'm not sure I can pull this off?
There's so much to absorb. And I mean, 6 weeks sounds like a lot of time. But by the time you learn to cannulate, by the time you learn the machine and you used to the alarms, the different alarms, what you have to do, because you really don't have the luxury of, oh, let me look this up in the book and see what I have to do to fix this alarm.
It's
You know,
dinging right now.
You have to act within, seconds.
Yeah.
And, there's always that apprehension, and you're a little worried that you're going to do something wrong. I've of course had blood spills, but it happens. But you just, you pull your bootstraps up and you keep on going. There's going to be trials, tribulations, troubles, but it's all okay, because you may have one bad day, but you're going to have 50 good ones for that one bad one. It makes up.
Right.
It's a
Right.
pretty good ratio.
Neil,
How
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Neil, when you experience those alarms for the first time at home, it feels different, right, than when you're in training.
Oh,
How did you, I mean, I know you sounds like you accepted it, or you just kind of, you were committed to it. And what was nice is that you were feeling confident probably from training and being able to cannulate yourself now. But how did you overcome that? What resources did you use, or how'd you navigate that feeling?
when I first came home, my wife is my care partner, and she stayed with me for most of the treatments. And then, she'd leave the room or do whatever, and, whatever she had to do. And then after about 6 months, I started doing more and more by myself. And it got to the point where she's not even around in the room. I do everything, but she's in the house. If I need help, I just holler for her. She can dial 911 or whatever, or she can be in here within, 10 seconds from anywhere in the house. So I have that kind of fuzzy feeling, that I do have a backup. But it is different at home when that alarm goes. You get that first alarm, and it's kind of like, oh, it makes you jump and like, what do I do now? But
I used to say that 80% of the training gets done in the clinic with the nurse, and the other 20% is the real completion of the learning, where everything that's going to go wrong is going to go wrong, and it's going to go wrong when you don't have your training wheels and you don't have a nurse who's going to keep you calm, and you have to rely on the tools that you've worked on building those past few weeks to get yourself through it. And then once you get through it, that's how you get to that 100% where you've actually achieved confidence and actually gained a new skill set. And I love the 80% rule. And I don't know if anyone else has a percentage rule, but that's about as close as I've gotten is I think people feel about 80% ready. I don't know why there's all these sparklies coming
looks
through
good,
my
though.
window at me, by the way. I'm not doing it on purpose. It's not
It
a
looks
filter.
cool. It looks cool. No, I agree with
Sparklies
that.
are fine.
I
Yeah.
agree with that too as well. You know, you get, there's only so much you can learn. It's like, you know, when you learn to drive, they take you in a parking lot and like you learn when your driving test is in the parking lot with cones and there's no distractions, no traffic around, and like you can knock that out the park. But once you get on that highway, it's a whole different ball game. You know,
Yep.
there's no cones and nobody's looking out for you. So with this, you know what I mean, you experience the parking lot when you're in there with your nurse, and they're your cones, and they're like your bumpers when you go bowling and you don't know what you're doing. And once you get home and that first alarm hits, you know, you usually find yourself calling the nurse, you know, and you know, you're like, hey, you know, what am I doing wrong? And you know, you just kind of that first time you're not gonna, unless you're perfect, you're not gonna remember exactly what to do. But you know, just my advice for that would just be just to take a minute and realize like you got home because you did it before, and you wouldn't have been home if you weren't able to do it. So once you get that
Nobody
confidence level,
goes home
yeah,
unless they
unless you're supposed
and
to.
their training nurse are confident
Can,
they can
exactly. They
succeed.
won't throw you to the wolves. So you know what you're doing, be confident
Yeah.
Loose.
and
You
get it done.
practiced all the things,
No.
yep. So how long, and David, why don't we start with you? How long would you say in those 30 days that you were home before you hit the road, how long did it take you, or 3 months, I think you said, how long did it take you to get into a routine so that things felt in control and went pretty smoothly?
Honesty hour. It took me, honesty hour, it took me a little bit longer than I wanted because I wasn't the most organized. My wife is the most organized, and I kind of gotten to her level now that we've been together so long. I've kind of stole a lot of things from her. But she was the one that would say, hey, you need to set a time, or hey, you need to do it this time, or hey, you need to do this. And she would help me set up my, you know, my thing. So I'm not ripping through everything looking for stuff if my alarm's going off, everything was right. And so I would say it took me like honestly, like a good month just to really just get a routine of what I need. I don't need all these supplies. I only need this. This is what I primarily use the most of. I like this tape the best. This is my favorite, you know.
Did you make
Band-Aids.
up packs for each treatment, or did you pull out things each?
I would pull things out the night before.
Okay.
I would like set up the machine the night before and kind of have. I used to cheat, you know, and I still cheat with the Tableau. I kind of set everything in there, so I just have to pop it in when it's time to go. So that way it just cuts. I'm all about cutting time because, you know, our time as patients, we feel like we lose so much time. As much time as we can cut down. You can't talk to a patient that doesn't want to cut their time ever. So, you know, as much as time we can cut down of just the setup and the breakdown and all that stuff, you find your little tricks and your little ways to do that. So once I got that down, I would say about a month, I've been on it ever since, and I've adapted and used that for the remaining years.
Okay. And Neil, how about you? How long did it take you to get into a routine? Because the reason I'm asking this is because we're finding in the Facebook group where we've got, you know, 7,000 plus folks, that it's that getting into the routine that makes people finally feel like I can do this. And it takes a varying amounts of time for different people.
Right. Each person is going to be different. And
Right.
I mean, you've got to be dedicated to doing this. You've got to have something driving you, whether it's just whatever it is inside you that keeps you going, and it's going to keep driving you. And, you know, you just have to follow that.
What kept you going?
Once I actually tasted or experienced home dialysis, it was like, wow, this is paradise compared to in center, because when I started in center was in 2020. That was when COVID hit.
Mhm.
Right.
It was terrible in center, because just all the restrictions went from, semi-lax with, you could have visitors to nobody in the clinic area, and, no, can't drink anything, no food, no nothing.
And a mask the whole treatment.
Double mask.
Oh, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. That
He
was,
used to
that
be
was
on
some
fire.
strange times.
Yeah, it was weird.
It's
But we
still
got through
weird.
it.
Yeah.
We got through it. We got through it, everyone.
Got through
Everyone
it.
that's here, we're
Yeah.
here.
I
Thank
actually
goodness.
just caught it the first time like 3 weeks ago.
Oh
I
man,
was so careful for so long, and then I went on a
Wow.
cruise.
I've had it 3 times.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
David and Neil, I'm curious, when you talk about your routines and feeling kind of that freedom, peace at home, what about your treatment time? Like you kind of feel like you have some flexibility now. And when you went home, did you keep that consistent with what you had experienced before, as you went home, or did you start to vary that at some point? I'm just curious if you just kind of switched it as to what worked for you initially and that worked for you, or did you have to move it around a little bit to kind of like put it into place?
I definitely I had to switch it up a little bit, because when I first started Next Stage, I didn't have any kids. I was single, and I was, I had my girlfriend, but we weren't married yet. We didn't live together yet. So I was by myself. So it's kind of like any time. And I used to do it so wrong. I mean, I'm just gonna be totally transparent, because no one is a perfect patient. I would try and do it. I would do it late, sometimes like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it'll run through to the next day. So I would consider that as a treatment and not do it. Like I had all these little stupid ways of trying not to do dialysis as much as possible. And then, once I realized I was really hurting myself and really started to understand what my blood work meant and what all these numbers meant, and how it was really like I was cutting my lifetime short doing it the wrong way. I think this go around, getting on a tablet machine, I definitely had a goal to do things right and be on time with it. I think the only thing I switch would be the time I did it. I try to get it done as early as possible. Just like this morning, I woke up at 5 and did it at 5:30, because I knew I had a lot going on today. And also with kids, I want to be available for my children. I want to be available. I'm a softball coach dad, and I'm a taekwondo dad. So it's like I want to be there for those things. I'm the type of dad that likes to pick his kids up from school, take them to school, sit in on the classes, like on the taekwondo class, be at all the like I just love being in the activities, and I used to miss them. I wouldn't be able to miss them. I would feel some type of way. I've missed a lot of things because of dialysis to this day, but whatever I can control is what I really want to be at. So I may have just changed things around to better be for my family, instead of it being for me like it was before. And when I needed to do it, now it's like, okay, let's get it done, so I have the day to tend to my home.
Well, Neil, we know you switched things around a little bit tonight, because you were going to be on the machine during the session.
Yeah. David mentioned a whole nother thing, and the learning thing is about your labs.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother block of, it's not information you use every day,
Yep.
but it's information you use at every meal, really, subconsciously, because
Yes.
you really don't think about it. It gets to
I
a
like want to write that down.
you don't
Yes.
think about it, just do it. But when I came home, I tried to keep it about the same time that I did it in training. And that worked for a while. And then I started graduating more towards the evening times. And that's what I do now, is evenings. And it seems to work out real well for me. I started with 5 days. Then they dropped me to 4 days. I've lost 240 pounds.
Wow.
Crazy.
I never would have guessed that. You looked like you were always that size.
Yeah, definitely.
my abs, you can't tell I'm on dialysis,
Wow,
all because of home.
that is
Be-
amazing.
That's great.
That you changed your entire life.
That's great.
I did. I
Same
go
here.
to doctor. Nurse says, "Oh, you're only half the man you used to be." So, well, yeah.
I want to guess less
Dialysis
than
for me
that.
helped my blood pressure. I used to be on 7 blood pressure medications before,
I was-
like clonidine and all the highest ones. And then once I changed my diet and stopped eating meat 4 years ago, and became a pescatarian, I now only take calcitriol, which is for thyroid, and over-the-counter vitamin D pill, and my binders. That's all my medication. So every time I go to the doctor, they're like, they look at my med list, everyone else's list, and it's just like, man, like, so same here. Doing treatment has definitely like helped me, because I used to be upwards to 440 pounds as well. And
Right.
it's definitely helped me out as well.
Neil,
Right.
Neil, who was your resource, or where did you learn a lot of those pieces about your diet, or about your your dialysis treatments and renal disease? I think you said you had a couple of folks that you really looked to and had some meaningful conversations with.
Right. Well, I went through 2 nephrologists. The first one, it took over a year before, and I had to really keep badgering her for her to tell me that I was stage 5.
Ooh,
Well, actually, I was stage 4 then. And, that's a serious time. And I thought that the patient should know that, and, can start making life changes and everything before dialysis. And, well, I found another nephrologist, and he sat down with me and explained everything, how the kidneys work, drew me pictures, and it just really explained things in terms that I could understand as a layman, and not in medical terms that I can't even begin to pronounce or spell. And that really helped, because I had an understanding of the disease, how it affected me, and all that. And it all stemmed from diabetes. And then I had some other health problems. The prostate swelled up, choked off the bladder, and that was it. The kidneys said,
oh, yeah.
Mm.
With your weight loss, do you still have diabetes?
no. Well, I'm still diabetic. My A1C is 4.7.
Yeah.
5 is supposed to be normal.
You're not even, yeah, your numbers are not even pre-diabetic. That is perfect.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And I'm off all my diabetic medicine.
I'll bet.
I was taking 80 milligrams of blood pressure medicine every day. Now I'm on 0, nothing.
Yep. Yep.
I still produce urine, so I still take water. And stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it for that too.
Wow.
Amazing, man.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. So you both switched machines at some points, which meant you went through training again and then went home again with a new machine, the Tableau. You already knew how to do home hemo. And Jen loves machines, and she's a machine geek. So she's played with both machines. But how was that to go through training the second time? I'm going to guess it was a little faster. And how was it to go home again? And either one of you can jump in first.
Actually, the second time through was much easier, because you already understand the process. You understand a lot about it. You're just basically learning the machine.
Right.
When we talked earlier today, and David made the comment, after a day, I thought I got this because the machine tells you everything.
Mhm.
And if you get an alarm, it flashes up on the screen what the alarm is, what to do. I mean,
That's handy.
yeah, it's a lot different. And yeah,
I think the
Books.
same, it was totally different, easier the second time around, obviously, just having that experience as a home patient and not having all the same anxieties and the what if questions that I had with the first time. Again, the technology being totally different, and we're talking 2009 to 2021. So, it's a big jump in tech stuff at this time. So that was very helpful to see. It was something that was kind of like familiar. And so that made it easier. And like Neil said, like you felt like you can go home after day one because you were just ready to get home. I'm not gonna lie, I was just like coming into that facility every day and I was just like, man, just send me home already, but we just had to wait for the machine to come. So luckily it came within like a week and a half and I was ready to go home. And like I mentioned earlier on a call, even moving recently is to the day last year, June 19th, my first my 1 year anniversary of moving. My machine was already set up and stuff in my home before I even got there. The team made sure I was set up already, and it was just amazing to have that and walk home. And I did have to go in center for a couple of days just to get acclimated as a new patient, and then it took a week or again, and I didn't have to like recourse or anything like that. And it just was easier to use between the two. It's hard really to compare the differences only because of the time lapse between using them. So I would never data combine the two.
In
like that.
terms of differences though, what about the volume of supplies that you had to store and put away? How does that compare?
Oh man, Neil, I'll go first on that one. I know you got something big to say. I'll knock it out first. So as far as supplies goes, thankful the next day, saving my life for the years it did, obviously. But we would get a lot of boxes, and the house that I lived in before was way smaller than the house I'm in now. And I used to take up multiple rooms in my house. I still kind of do, which my wife always gets at me about, but that's a whole nother thing. But there it was just
some of that's your music equipment too.
it's everything. having boxes all through the house and just always having to go pull boxes down, and it was a lot. The pure flow and having all the extra pieces for that, and then the bags and then all the supplies. It could be a lot if you don't have the room. Again, was thankful to even have it at the time that I did, but it was just like looking back now, retrospect, it was like, man, there was a lot of stuff in my house. Now, I have one closet where I keep everything in there. When I get my deliveries, I'm able to break everything down and kind of put it away. And you don't see it unless you go into that back room. So
It's taken up way less space.
way less space. Yes, most definitely.
That's
lot-
really nice.
And a lot less
I've
moving
seen
parts.
the pictures of the pallets full of
Yes.
boxes.
And a lot less moving parts. There's not so many
Right.
pieces to hook up one thing. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And Neil?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Just say it, man.
With next day, just so much. I mean, your initial delivery is 44 boxes.
I
Yep.
have heard that.
15 of those are hanging bags.
Yep.
There's 2 in a box. These things weigh a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, I'm in my 60s. I can't be lifting that stuff anymore.
They're like 45-pound boxes. They're like 40-pound boxes.
Wow. Yeah.
And then on top of that, you had your sacks for the pure flow, which you had to start about 7 hours before each treatment.
Yep.
And if your sac was bad when you did your testing on it, well, then you've already lost hours.
Oh man.
Drain. Now you're going to sit another 2.5. I mean, it's crazy.
I remember that.
And I like David said, I had supplies in 2 rooms, and now I do it all in one room and in a space that the hanging bags alone used to take with the other machine.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
That's it.
I want to quick share some advice that we give folks in the Facebook group, which is basically stuff that we've learned from other folks who went through training and then went home. And that is, if you are in the place where you're thinking about going home, and we hope you are, and you're about to go through training, clear the decks. Just clear anything out of your life that you do not have to do during that training period, because it's just a lot mentally. So if you volunteer, just set that aside until you're done. Cook meals ahead or have people bring you food so that you don't have to worry about that. One of the smartest ladies I know said this was the hardest thing she's ever done, was to go through that training. And that was with the Next Stage machine. But it's just important to know that it is a big mental commitment. It's a lot to learn. There are a lot of moving parts. It's scary. It's life and death. And just kind of give yourself some grace. And then once you're home, and actually even during training, expect that there are going to be times when you feel overwhelmed and like there is no way you're going to be able to finish this. No way, can't possibly learn it. This is too much. Everybody feels that way at some point. Everybody does. It's normal to feel that way. And then at home, got to get in the routine. Once you get in the routine, everything's easier. Until then, people often feel like this has been oversold. Everybody said this was going to be easy and I was going to feel better. And I'm not necessarily sure I'm feeling any different, but it's a ton of work and I'm overwhelmed. And especially if you work full time and you're trying to do a daily treatment, it's a lot. So you got to get in the routine. You got to give yourself long enough to get in the routine. I am going to let Anne and Jen raise any questions they want. And then y'all who are listening, we would love to hear from you too. We would love to hear what you're thinking about, what questions you have for our guests tonight. And you can put those, like I said, in the chat or in the Q&A, whichever you prefer. Either one is fine. And in case I didn't mention it earlier, because I can't remember, this session is being recorded and it will be on Home Dialysis Central under the webinars section.
And if I'm monitoring the chat and the Q&A and there's nothing in there. So Jen, I'll toss it to you. I can ask some more questions too, but go for it.
So I want to talk about the interesting things of the dialysate flow rates between what you used to use and what you use now, because you both have kind of hinted at the fact that you really enjoy the fact that you have dialysate on delivery system and that you make your own. You don't have to set it up ahead of time using a concentrate. That also means that you're able to use, I'm assuming, faster flows. Do you feel that you're getting a better treatment? Do you feel better? Do you ever think
feel
about
any different between the two?
Do you feel different between the
Yeah.
two? Just
I hadn't thought about that. Good question.
Some days I feel better and some days I don't feel better. I can't really say one machine makes me feel better than the other.
They're both
That's good.
really good machines.
Because
that's what that means.
Yeah.
they both do the same thing.
Yep.
They're both great machines. I wouldn't be as far as I've gotten if it wouldn't have been for Next Stage. Because that was the first year, well, basically 2 years of my dialysis journey. And, it was different for me because US Renal handled outside or the Tableau and Fresenius didn't. Well, not only did I have to change clinics, I had to change, they wanted me to change doctors. Well, I convinced my nephrologist to get prescribing rights at US Renal. And that was another 2-month process in itself. And then the machine was delivered a month before I could even use it. And I could just look at it and drool. I'd go to training and I'd have to come home and hook up to the Versa they had sitting here. I'm like, I trained on that other one though. I want to play. But
I'm a machine geek. I understand. Wanting to play with the other one.
She truly is. She had so much fun at the American Society of Nephrology meeting setting up that machine.
Sure, what was the
So
question?
the chat is not working. It didn't work at the last time either. We didn't stop it from working and we don't know why it doesn't work, but it doesn't. So use the Q&A instead, and that should work. Oh, it does. See, I see what you mean. It says chat. Okay, no, that's somebody commenting that chat is currently disabled. That wasn't us. We want you guys to ask questions. We definitely did not disable the chat. So try the Q&A. It should work.
What was the question again, Dory, that you asked? I'm sorry.
Did I ask a question? I don't think I asked.
Well, Neil was answering something and then I forgot. Sorry.
no, Jennifer was.
Oh, we were asking, did you feel any different?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Machine.
I don't think, like Neil said, it's something, you have your days. I mean, dialysis is just going to give you a feeling. And I think 90% of the time is really mentally how you're doing that day sometimes, like if I get on and I'm already like not looking forward to something, treatment will kind of feel that. I feel like it kind of doubles that feeling for me. And then when I'm off, I'm exhausted sometimes. And then there's days where I get off and I feel like I feel like Blade, like I got my fix, I got my blood, and now I can run again and I can go. I think sometimes if I do know I have a busy day and I have to do treatment, I mentally prepare for it and get it done and know I can't be tired that day. I have to keep going. But it definitely, as far as differences between the two machines, I just feel like it's more, I guess with the less things to do to set up for Tableau, it just kind of makes it a little easier to deal with. But as far as feeling in the body, I think that varies. And, spilling my age a little bit, it's like 2009 to 2023, man. I'm an old man now. So my body is, I'm going to feel that, man. I'm going to feel that. So
If you're an old man, I don't know how Neil and I are feeling.
hey, I'm old out here. So, but I definitely, still just appreciate to just be able to have the option to have a treatment until, kidney comes or whatever it may be. But as far as the feeling, I just think it really depends on the mental aspect, and you're going to have your days. It's going to be dark days, it's going to be light days, but you have to always find the silver lining and mentally just push through.
Do you notice any difference, do you think, based on what time of day you do your treatment?
Yes. I'm sorry, Neil. Yeah, for me, yeah. Like if I do the evening time, I just feel like everything messes up. And then I'm whooped that night.
I was going to say, if it energizes you, maybe you don't want it in the evening.
Yeah, and then I'm whooped through the night. And then in the
do.
morning, I'm still a little dialysis hungover. So
Yeah.
I'm sluggish. So in the morning, when I do it in the morning, I get over the sluggishness by 10, 11 o'clock, and then I'm back. So then I have my whole day to be full energy. So, but when I do it at night for some reason, or when I have something to do, it just feels like maybe I rushed. No pun intended.
I mean, that is your name.
I know, maybe I rushed it, or I didn't really take my time putting my needles in as I usually do when I'm in my morning session. At night, I'm already kind of tired. So like, I'm just trying to get it over with. And I don't feel like I'm as careful. And it does, for me, it's just like it's a gift and a curse for the day and the nighttime for me.
But Neil, you prefer to do your treatments in the evening. Do you feel sleep? I mean, are you able to get off the machine and go to sleep?
I'm usually up for about an hour after.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
I'm pretty wide awake for about an hour, and then I get in my recliner and try to get as comfortable as I can and listen to some music and just fade off to sleep.
You listen to David's music.
That might keep you up, Neil.
Fade right off to sleep.
Question, can I ask Neil a question?
You absolutely can.
So Neil, do you feel like, when people ask me how do I feel after dialysis, I try to describe it as like something that they can visually see, because it's hard to like tell them how you feel. How do you, if you can use something visual, how would you say you feel after treatment visually? like a color.
I was gonna say, do you have an example?
Yeah, like for me, I say I feel like a lava lamp. So if you
Oh,
can picture inside of a lava lamp,
I love
it's
lava
just
lamps.
like
Goopy and
yeah,
Right.
you're just kind of floating a little bit because like your blood is still like running.
It-
So lava lamp is my feeling.
I
It's
like it.
hard to describe because it's different. You know, you don't feel the same after every treatment either.
No, you don't.
And being on dialysis, that's a whole nother thing there, because you don't know how you're going to feel each day when you wake up.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I like to keep challenging myself, and I try to go, instead of taking off, 0.7, I try to take, okay, let's go 0.8 today, or let's go 0.9.
Point. Lord, you're amazing.
Well,
In how long are your treatments, Neil?
I do 3 hours.
You do 3 hours and 0.9. That still sounds pretty reasonable. Have you seen our ultrafiltration rate calculator?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
It's
on
really
It's
cool.
on Home Dialysis Central, and it will help you make sure that you stay in the green. And this is tricky because I can't post it to the chat. Oh, no, I think I can just post the link to everybody in the open chat. Actually, I think people can post their questions too.
Mhm.
Right? That should work. Anyway, let me just nab that link and see if this works. Pop it in here.
That fluid gain is something.
Yeah, there we go. See, so anybody wants to ask questions, you can just put your question in the talking chat, if we want to call that. I don't know, there's chat and Q&A, and this one seems to work though. This is the link, it's free. And this is based on a study by Jennifer Flythe, who I'm Jenny's biggest fan. I've told her that. It's really embarrassing for her. But she did the data that looked at how much water you pull off and kind of what it does to the heart. And so you want to stay at a rate that is slow and safe. So there's two different things going on when you pull water out. One is the amount, right? How many liters are you pulling? The other is how quickly are you doing it? And those two things are related, but they're not exactly the same. And we don't unfortunately have a calculator for the amount. I tried really hard to get Dr. Agar to do one, and I never succeeded. But we do have one for the rate, and it can really make it. Do you ever cramp?
I have, yes. I haven't a lot, but when I do,
It's bad.
it's bad.
It's
And
really bad. Well,
and
the
I
thing
know
is,
it's my fault. I don't even get mad.
it is your fault.
I was like, oh, you did too much. You did too much. And
No,
sometimes
it's
it's hard
totally your
to,
fault.
sometimes it's hard too, though. I must say, in our defense, we don't have those weight machines in our house that you have in the hospitals that you can get your
Right.
exact weight.
Yep.
And some of the scales that we get, they don't really tell the real weight.
No.
Some of them are like 1.5 kilos off or whatever. So
Scales can be off by a
you're-
lot, but
you're
this
taking off, and then you're like, oh God, like I thought I was 2.5, but I'm really only
try
2, or
try
whatever.
the calculator, because the problem is if your muscles are cramping, like your legs are cramping or your belly is cramping or whatever it is that's cramping,
Mhm.
your heart is a muscle. Your heart's cramping too. Your
Oh, yeah, I feel it.
kidneys, any kidney function you have left is cramping. Your brain, okay, your brain is a big blob of fat. It's not cramping,
Yeah.
but your brain is still being damaged. If you do that, and you do not want brain damage, nobody wants brain damage. So you
Oh my
want to
God.
stay in the green with a nice gentle treatment so that you don't cramp, which feels terrible, and your blood pressure doesn't drop, which feels even more terrible. And so you protect your heart and your brain and whatever kidney function you have left.
Yeah, fluid gain is a hard thing for me. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm
That sounds impossibly hard to me.
It's hard to
On a
not
hot
gain.
day in the middle of
Yeah,
summertime, that's
it's
rough.
hard to not gain
First
2,
day of summer
2.5.
today. Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to not gain that, especially like just every day, just,
Well,
you
you live in
sometimes you don't
Atlanta.
think.
It's hot there.
It's hot in Hotlanta.
Hot in Atlanta.
St. Louis, much better.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Hey, we are
How
actually
are you?
almost out of time.
I know, that's what I just
Like-
realized, Dory, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, so many good tips, so many good resources, and such good stories from
Yeah.
Neil and David and everybody's contributions. I just love it. And again, just grateful to hear David's story and Neil's story. I think Dory, if you have, I was just gonna ask just one more just high level question, and David's he's ready to say something too, I can tell. But just what advice do you have for people that are considering going home on HHD? What do you wish you would have known then and that you know now, so that we can kind of, I'm just hearing so many good thoughts of resilience and finding a way and winning always. And so just curious for you guys to bring us home. No pun intended, but
Well, you definitely took the word. That's what I was gonna say. Do we get a closing remark? So thank you. And I was just gonna, my thing I definitely want to say is find your W's. Okay, everybody knows I'm big wins only everything, but find your W's. The W's are your will. You gotta have the will to do this, to home treatment. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to have the will to do it. You got to have the want to do it. You have to want to go home. You have to want to take your life into your own hands. You have to want to be independent. You have to want to save your life and live your life. And you have to have a why. Find your why. What is your reason? Why do you want to come home? Why do you want to do home treatment? Why do you want to live? Like, find those things. And then that all leads to the biggest W of all, is the win. Okay, so you have to have the will, the want, the why, and that leads to the win. And when you have those W's and you live in that mindset, whether it's whatever chronic illness you have, whatever you're dealing with, and just life in general, because life is also can be an illness, just have those W's in your life. And I just feel like you can do it. I encourage anyone who's out there who wants to try home dialysis, look into it. It's okay if it's not for you. It is not for everyone. And if you're on it and you're feeling stressed out, you can always let that be known, and you can always go hospital, go home, go back in center for a bit, get yourself together. You're not losing by doing that. You're actually taking care of yourself and your mental health.
Winning.
That's the thing to do. So that's it. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
I love your W's. That was terrific. Thanks, David.
Problem.
Neil, how about you?
I think you need to learn as much about the disease as you can.
Yes.
You need to get a schedule and pretty much stay on it with, at least with the days, and try to, like, mine may not be the same time every evening, but it's always in the evening. David likes his in the morning.
Mhm.
You get a schedule. The other thing is, I've done a lot of innovations myself.
I love the DIY. That I love home therapy so much. You guys will do everything to make it better. It's heartwarming. It makes me feel better. You're like, I can improve this situation just this much, and I will, because I can. It's refreshing.
Go you.
Right? Thank
Very
you.
cool.
Very cool.
all right, Neil, bring us home though. What's your final advice for patients as you take us to the end?
The biggest thing is you can self-advocate. The advantage a home patient has is you see your nephrologist and nurse once a month. You also see, your whole team, your dietitian, your social worker, you see everybody. And if you have a complaint, or, you want to give someone a pat on the back or whatever, that's, you do that then. When, and things get done a lot better than, in center telling the nurse, and they have to telling the tech, they tell the nurse, they tell the doctor. By the time it gets back to you, you're 4 treatments later. So yeah, be your own self advocate and be as educated as you can.
Good advice.
Good advice.
All right. And anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think you guys, you say the best. I mean, it's just, the pleasure is mine to listen and to listen and to listen to patients and nurses as well, and how each patient, you know, has different needs, and those needs are specific, they're important, and they change over time. So just accepting that and continuing to drive towards the positive and understanding that it's normal, that challenges are normal. But you know, as you tackle those and find solutions that work for you, never feel alone. You just, like Neil said, he needed to advocate for himself on how to learn about his disease state. He went to the nephrologist. You know, David was learning, you know, figuring out how to hold some things in position and work out, you know, his treatment therapy, the best time to treat. You know, just those things. He probably was asking people, you know, he's asking for help. He's got a care partner. You're solving for those things physically in your own home, and you're not alone. You know, you can ask your nurse. You know, here at Outset, we've got the patient experience team. We're happy to help and partner and just be really good communicators, you know, with you all as partners. So yeah, I just grateful to be part of the conversation. Thank you so much, Dory and Jen, and Neil and David for being part of this wonderful panel.
Glad.
Thank you
so
for the
glad to
opportunity.
have-
Thank you, guys.
Yep, so glad to have you all here. So glad for everybody who was able to join us tonight and who will watch this in the future. And hopefully that will be lots of people and they will learn lots of wonderful things. And thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.